We're thrown right into the thick of things as we witness a woman desperately sprinting for her life through the ruins of Epecuén. Just when she thinks she's managed to escape, she's confronted by a scary masked man who knocks down the woman before smashing her to death. So, the story is that back in the 80s, a massive flood disaster hit Epecuén, and it was like the water just decided to swallow the town whole. But that's not even the craziest part. When the flood finally receded, it left behind this totally eerie lunar landscape. Enter director Vasco and his eclectic crew, including his model girlfriend, the super talented sketch artist Diego, the skilled videographer Erica, the ultimate flirt Nacho, and last but not least, Carla, a former resident who lost most of her family in the devastating flood. These people are traveling to the old deserted city to film a documentary about it. Let's take a trip down memory lane to the night of the flood in Epecuén. Carla was sound asleep in her cozy room, dreaming of unicorns and rainbows, when suddenly she was awakened by the blaring sound of the siren. The family evacuated the place, but not before her mother locked the house to prevent any robbers from getting their hands on their precious belongings. Little did they know that they won't be returning to their own town ever again. Things begin to get a bit weird for the crew as they stop at a gas station to fill up their tank. While the girls head inside to use the restroom, Nacho decides to stay outside and wait for their return. But things start to take a creepy turn when Vasco goes exploring and finds himself in a rundown workshop. And if that wasn't spooky enough, the car parked inside the workshop appears to have blood on its front, as if it had just struck an animal, or a person perhaps. As our dear detective Vasco is busy examining the bloodstains on the car, the gas station's owner, Chimango, pops up out of nowhere. This guy looks like he just walked out of a horror movie with his creepy demeanor and unsettling vibe. If I were in Vasco's shoes, I'd be ready to run for my life, because this guy seems like the kind of person who wouldn't think twice about turning you into a BBQ. As expected, Chimango first accuses Vasco of stealing, and the next moment he is acting like a long-lost friend. According to him, he was just joking. Anyways, while Vasco is busy filling up the tank with Chimango's help, Vicky has to deal with something much more disturbing than a bloody car. A toilet that looks like it hasn't been cleaned in centuries and flushes out what looks like, blood? I mean, we've all seen some questionable restrooms, but this one takes the cake. Meanwhile, Erica and Carla find themselves in the company of Chimango's family member, Abuela, who is determined to sell the girls her special meat pies. And by special, I mean crawling with beetles. Talk about a gas station from hell. As the crew returns to the van, Chimango's brother, Pervertido, starts making inappropriate gestures towards the girls. Seriously, what kind of twisted family is this? Eventually, after being forced into paying an outrageous amount for the fuel, the crew is able to make their escape from this nightmarish gas station. The crew visits Carla's home to document her story, but it seems like danger is lurking around every corner. An old man can be seen watching our characters from afar, and he also has a riffle. Now, who the hell is he? As the team enters the house, they start searching for the perfect spot to begin their documentary. Carla is hesitant to relive her traumatic experiences, but she knows it's necessary to make this project a success. While exploring the house, Diego starts feeling a strange presence around him, but he dismisses it, thinking it's just one of his crew members. As the team gets to work, Vicky and Nacho can't resist snapping some selfies with the eerie ruins of Epecuén in the background. But little do they know, Vasco is starting to get a little jealous. He can't stand the thought of his girlfriend taking pictures with anyone else. And to make matters worse, the cruise van is now leaking fuel. Not exactly the kind of trouble you want to encounter in a deserted city full of creeps. As expected, the van runs out of gas in the middle of nowhere, compelling the crew to get out on the lonely streets of Epecuén. While inspecting the default, Erica finally figures out that the hose is cut and they can no longer continue their journey without having it repaired. Vasco is busy giving Nacho a piece of his mind for being so careless when suddenly a car pulls over. And who do we have here? None other than the mysterious man who was keeping tabs on them earlier, the one and only Senor X. This guy offers to lend a helping hand, and upon inspection, he discovers that the van's hose wasn't damaged due to any fault of the car, but instead, someone had intentionally cut it. Yikes! Talk about major sabotage! Now Senor X is ready to help Vasco by taking him to the nearest gas station to replace the hose. But here's the catch. He only wants Vasco to tag along and not anyone else from the crew. Something's fishy here. Why is he only willing to take one member of the team? Sounds like there's more to this Senor X character than meets the eye. After instructing his crew to take shots of the cemetery to save them time, Vasco departs with the old man and yes, again without any weapons. Before leaving, he also instructed Nacho not to touch the hair on his girlfriend's head, or he will rip his head off. So, was there anything our crew could have done to avoid this situation? Well, let's take a look at everything they have done so far. First, when it came to stopping by that creepy gas station, since beggars can't be choosers when in the middle of nowhere, the best way to avoid this situation is to be more prepared in the first place. Okay, you had the guts to plan a trip to an abandoned city without giving a second thought to the bare necessities like extra gas or even food. But now you also want to explore a creepy workshop with no weapons or even a pocket knife. Even girls have pepper spray for their weekly grocery runs, man. From venomous snakes to crazy psychos, there are so many things that could go wrong. Maybe they're just winging it and hoping for the best. But there's an old saying, hope for the best but prepare for the worst. And when it comes to certain situations like exploring an abandoned city or surviving in the wilderness, relying solely on hope might not be the best strategy. So, if you want to increase your chances of success, it's important to be proactive and take steps to prepare for whatever challenges might come your way. So, what precautions could you have taken beforehand to avoid such a situation? First off, make sure to research the area you're planning to visit and always stay on well-traveled paths. Self-defense tools are always recommended, and don't forget to bring extra food and fuel. But let's say you're already in this spooky town and you find yourself face to face with a bunch of sketchy folks. What should you do to survive? Try to find things around you that can be used as weapons. Hopefully we won't ever have to use it, but it's much better to have it and not need it than to need a weapon and be defenseless. Vasco had the great opportunity to grab a tool from the workshop. Even a tiny screwdriver could have worked. But if you are as innocent as our director, feel free to find sharp items from the ruins. Even if you have something for your defense, it is recommended to keep your distance from the weirdos and avoid any physical confrontation if possible. Trust your instincts, and if something doesn't feel right, get out of there as fast as you can. After the creepy encounters at the Apecuan station, I can understand being hesitant to trust anyone. Senor X is a stranger, and it's possible that he cut the hose himself to lure the crew into a trap. It was very convenient for him to find the gang just as they broke down, and was very suspicious how he only wanted one specific person to travel with him to get the replacement part. These clues stack up to the point I wouldn't risk this person's help. You need to think with your survival instincts, not just his trust in humanity. That being said, we shouldn't just avoid accepting help from everyone, and we don't have much choice if we are stranded so far from civilization. If we are going to take a chance on trusting this man for help though, we should at least bring a second person with us. 2 pairs of eyes are better than 1, especially when it comes to avoiding abduction or worse. And don't forget to stay connected with your crew. If it were me, I'd make sure to share my location with my crew so they can keep tabs on me. After all, it's better to be safe than sorry in a place like Apecuan. While Diego, Erica, and Carla leave for the cemetery on foot, Nacho and Vicky decide to hang back. Things take a romantic turn in this unromantic place when Nacho and Vicky take advantage of Vasco's absence. After the other crew members reach their destination and take all the necessary shots, Carla explores the place only to get beaten by a snake. Diego sprints into action and carefully uses Erica's scarf to tie it around Carla's leg, and they return to the van carrying their injured companion. Meanwhile, back at the vehicle with the lovebirds, Nacho excuses himself for a second to take a piss while Vicky is busy finding her dog. However, the young man is soon accompanied by a masked stranger sneaking up from behind. Nacho is there alone, unaware of the danger looming around him. As if things couldn't get any weirder, Vasco and Senor X are suddenly confronted by a masked man blocking their path with a barricade. And what does Senor X do? He hops right out of the car to chat with the creepy dude. I mean, come on, if someone is deliberately trying to stop you, the last thing you want to do is put yourself in harm's way. No amount of firepower is worth risking your life and the lives of others. A quick U-turn is definitely the smarter move here. In a shocking turn of events, just as Senor X is approaching the barricade, a masked man appears out of nowhere and brutally attacks Vasco, crushing him to death. It's unclear how the man managed to sneak up on him, but yes, he did. And even Senor X couldn't do anything. Meanwhile, things are going from bad to worse for Nacho and Vicky as they are abducted by yet another masked man. With the fate of their fellow crew members hanging in the balance, the tension is at an all-time high. Diego and Erica race back to the van with an injured Carla, desperate for medical assistance. But when they arrive, the crew is nowhere to be found, leaving them stranded and confused. As Carla's condition worsens, Diego yells until his lungs give out, but there's no response. Just when things couldn't get any worse, a pair of headlights appeared in the distance, heading straight for their van. As if that wasn't enough, the vehicle begins to shake violently, throwing our characters into a panic. The killers successfully lure Diego out of the van by showing him a mask hung on the wooden rod. I mean, what kind of sick game is this? As Diego approaches, he's horrified to see that it's their dog, Kiki. While Diego is still outside, Erica is made to leave the van by the head of masked men. Before she can manage to escape, she falls into a trap and hurts her leg in the process. Diego immediately sprints for her help, but the sudden appearance of the killer makes him leave the place and hide in ruins. Suddenly, a hand grabs Diego from behind, and thank God, he is Senor X. The two wait behind the walls until the psychopaths leave the area while leaving Erica's leg behind in the trap. Diego is devastated to see his friend's leg, but also more determined than ever to seek revenge on the maniacs. He grabs the killer's axe tightly that was conveniently left behind and is ready to take them all on. It is time to make them pay for what they had done to Erica and the rest of the crew, especially Kiki. Our only survivors slowly follow the psychopaths to a deserted factory on the outskirts of town. And surprise, the horrifying masked men responsible for all the killings are none other than the gas station family. While Chimango shows Erica the fetuses of his family members who lost their lives to the deadly flood, we see Pervertido torturing Nacho and Vicky. So, our characters are in a bit of a jam. Anything we could have done differently here? Going back to Carla, if you ever find yourself in the unfortunate situation of getting bitten by a snake, the first thing you need to do is stay calm and act fast. Don't try to suck the venom out of the wound as they do in the movies. That can actually make things worse. Instead, immobilize the affected limb and keep it lower than your heart to prevent the venom from spreading. And if you're in a remote area without access to medical help, your best bet is to tie a cloth above the bite to slow down the venom's spread until you can get professional treatment. Next, let's look at the gang getting jumped while in the van. The dumbest thing one could do in this situation is to do exactly what your enemy has planned. The killers know that attacking the vehicle will give their targets a chance to escape, leading them right into their traps. I don't want to be rude, but our characters should have realized the danger when their van moved like an amusement park ride. The best thing they could do is stick together and try to figure out how to get out of this alive. If I were in the same shoes as our characters, the first thing I would do is gather my crew and make a plan of action. We need to get out of this situation alive and fast. Leaving our injured friend behind might seem like a tough call, but in the end, it's a necessary one. We have to be realistic and understand that we can't carry her with us at our pace. Plus, staying with the van is not an option anymore, especially when it's surrounded by psychos trying to kill us. So, the only option is to gather your wits, grab whatever makeshift weapons you can find, and make a break for it. As you run, we need to stay vigilant, always on the lookout for danger. The goal is to make it out of the city alive, and to do that, you need to keep moving until you find a trustworthy passerby who can help us escape this madness. Next, as it comes down to just 2 survivors, maybe we shouldn't be rushing to go on a rescue mission. Don't get me wrong, your courage is admirable, but sometimes it's better to save yourself first. I mean, why not leave this creepy town and seek help from the authorities to put an end to the insanity of those psychopaths? Facing these armed and dangerous group as just a pair could lead to all our deaths, instead of just our friends who may be gone already. Of course, the other thought to this is that if we act quickly, we could save our friends before they are murdered. It's up to us really to assess the situation and decide if we want to take that risk. But with them having greater numbers, knowledge of the area, and potentially more traps, I would recommend the cold but logical strategy of retreating for backup. Of course, our characters don't do that though, so let's see how things work out for them and the kidnapped victims. We see Chimango has Erica strapped to a table. His behavior is erratic and unstable, possibly due to the trauma of losing his family or surviving the devastating flood. Whatever the reason, he has become a person who doesn't hesitate to use a chainsaw to cut someone's leg. And that's exactly what he does to poor Erica, without even giving her any sedatives to ease her excruciating pain. What are we expecting from an inhuman person? It's no surprise that empathy isn't a common trait among thieves or murderers, but when it comes to serial killers, it's almost non-existent. We cut over to Nacho and Vicky now, who are being held captive by the demented Pervertido. Vicky is tied up to a chair, helpless and terrified, while Nacho is locked up in a cage. However, Pervertido decides to free Nacho, only to brutally him in the stomach. That's quite a gruesome scene. Señor X finally made it to one of the rooms with animal skulls, pictures of the family, and the belonging of all the victims who lost their lives to this creepy family's brutality. To the old man's disbelief, he finds his daughter's wallet there, hurting to his very core. It turns out that the girl we saw at the start of the movie was actually Señor X's daughter, and he came to this abandoned city to look for her. As the man looks for the survivors for their rescue, he stumbles upon Chimango, who is devouring Erica's leg in front of her eyes. Before he can do anything, he is approached by Tito, Chimango's brother, and the same masked man who killed his daughter. We cut away before getting to see what happens. Hope the old man can handle himself in a fight. Meanwhile, as Pervertido is assaulting Vicky, Diego attacks him from behind, finishing him off once and for all. Vicky seems to be extremely traumatized by everything she has gone through. She can't even speak. After consoling Vicky as Diego tries to look for an escape route, he comes across Tito on his way. Diego finally manages to kill the masked man with a sword, only to learn that he is actually Señor X, whose mouth was taped. Oops. Can't blame Diego for attacking the first masked man he sees, but we should always check and confirm our targets before committing murder. Chimango approaches out of nowhere and makes Diego surrender by holding a knife to Vicky's throat. All the survivors are made to sit at the dinner table with the Psycho family, and to everyone's shock, Erica is still alive even after losing both of her legs. Here comes Grandma Abuela. If the madness of her kids wasn't enough, she forces Erica to eat human meat pies before screaming and crying like an absolute maniac. Unable to cope with all the brutality and the family's psychotic behaviors, Vicky grabs a glass bottle and to free herself from this constant pain. Taking advantage of the distraction, Diego manages to escape and hide in one of the rooms. Just when Tito is looking for him, he emerges from behind and hits him on the back. But to his shock, the man is strong enough to fight back. In the unexpected turn of events, Diego manages to remove Tito's mask, and from beneath comes out a disfigured face, which might result from some kind of accident during the flood. Tito loses confidence, making him vulnerable against Diego. Just as Diego is hitting him with a rod, Carla appears out of nowhere and begs him to stop. The story has now unraveled. She is really his family member who works to lure people to the town so that his family can either kill or devour them. The snake bite was real though. After Chimango rescued her from the van, the grandma gave her some anti-venom drink to bring her back to life. In disbelief, when Diego inquires about the reason, Carla reveals how her family lost everything in the flood, but nobody came to help them. As people left them to die in oblivion, they decided to take revenge for losing their loved ones by basically killing innocent people. I guess it goes as they say, hurt people like to hurt people. Carla kisses him before ending his life by into his throat. It's a brutal fate that all of the crew members share, except for Erica, who is hanging on by a thread. As the movie comes to a close, we see Carla already planning her next move, ready to take her next target to Epecuén, the city of psychopaths abandoned for 30 years and more. Well, that was an unfortunate end. Guess they should have gone for help after all. But was there anything different that could have been done? Once they made it to the kidnapper's lair, Señor X and Diego should have stuck together. With one having a rifle and the other an axe, they complement each other well and could cover attacks at close or long range. Splitting up would allow them to cover more ground, but also leave them vulnerable to sneak attacks, such as what happens in the film. Or they could just be overwhelmed if they stumbled on multiple attackers at a time. Remember, we don't even know exactly how many killers there could be. Just because we only saw 3 people running the gas station doesn't mean they couldn't have even more attackers stationed there. Once we rescued Vicky, we need to complete the rescue and get her out of there. She is still in harm's way if she's in that building, and if she doesn't seem to be in any condition to fight, she would only be a liability if an attacker shows up, which they do and she becomes as he uses her as a hostage. Speaking of which, Diego should have called his bluff. They are both as good as dead if he surrenders, and they will likely do what they want with Vicky despite his actions, so don't drop the weapon or go quietly. Speaking of not going quietly, Vicky should not have committed. That solves nothing in the end. Well, except for making a distraction, I suppose, but I don't think that was her intention at the time. If you truly can't go on for whatever reason, at the very least, go down swinging and take some of the horrible people that caused this misery down with you. So in the end, the group should have been more prepared for this trip, more cautious with their actions and plans of attack, and should have gotten away while they could. Don't make the same mistakes they did and stay safe while traveling. That's it from me. Do me a favor and beat that like button, and visit us again next week. Until then, binge another one and peace out.